Hello and welcome to ARC360's The Future in Focus digital event series. Before starting, we'd just like to thank our corporate partners, BASF, BMS, CAPS, Copart, Emacs, Integral, Enterprise Rent-A-Car, Mercer, Nationwide Vehicle Recovery Assistance, S&G Response, and Sherwin-Williams, as well as our partners, Aztec, the Green Park Specialists, Indasa, Prasco, and the Innovation Group. Thanks, and we hope you enjoy the following webinar.
So before we go on, our disclaimer, so the views and opinions expressed during the following webinar are those of the individual contributors and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the contributor's employer, organisation, committee or other group or individual. And there we have it. Once again, please respect any all contributions and we encourage you to join the conversation via the interactive functions available. So there we go. Gillian, how are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
I am very well. God, not many people ask that, but I'm very well, thank you. We've just had a last-minute change of camera, so if I do look a bit like a ghost, I'm sorry. It's showing me up very pale, but hey, I haven't been out much, so there you go. So, and how's the world been treating you in recent times?
Excellent, you know, really busy, balancing work and home life with two small children. So, yep, lots going on, but at the same time, not a lot's going on.
Yeah, well, that sounds a very familiar story, really. And yeah, as you say, it's been an interesting balance in recent times. But thank you very much indeed for giving up your time today and joining us. And it's great to kind of have Zurich involved. As I said to you, we had Ian Thompson join us many months ago now, middle of last year, I think, where he gave us a bit of an insight into what the business was up to. But so kind of let's start from the beginning then, I suppose. So can you give us a brief overview of Zurich's motor claims business in the UK and how has it adapted to the challenges that the pandemic has thrown at yourselves and everyone, really?
Yeah, so from a structure point of view for motor claims, it's quite straightforward actually. The Motor Centre of Excellence is based within the Glasgow office and all of our customers are serviced out of the Glasgow office. Challenges in the pandemic, I mean, I'm sure it's the same for a lot of people, but, you know, first and foremost in our minds was around people. So before there was any sort of lockdown or mention of COVID-19, we did offer and enable our people to work flexibly. And a lot of people were doing some form of home working. So it wasn't really a new thing. It had been up and running in Zurich for probably a year. We were quite fortunate that, you know, again, before there was any mention of COVID-19, we took the decision to complete a fully working from home pilot, and that ran for 3 months. You know, we had a team of people who were fully operational on their caseload, one-to-ones, team meetings, customer meetings, absolutely everything, and that took place a year ago. So we were able to learn some lessons in advance of, you know, the mandatory working from home that did come. And, you know, when the government made it mandatory, Zurich had actually made the decision before that to send our staff home. And, you know, the key focus here was around everyone had laptops, but, you know, let's make sure from a health and safety point of view that people have the right equipment, you know, desks, chairs, and from a health and safety point of view, you know, they were set up to be comfortable and as effective as they possibly could be at their desk. So we did receive really good feedback from our customers and our brokers that really there was no dip in service for Zurich. We were fully operational from day one, which was great. Another consideration for us around the people point was, you know, the challenges like I've just alluded to there about people working from home but having small families or caring responsibilities. So we offered everyone in the UK up to 2 weeks emergency paid leave, and that allows people, you know, the flexibility to balance all their work and life challenges that we all faced back in March time. And I think that most of us know again how difficult it can be. So in addition to those 2 weeks, we just offer everyone flexible working, so people can work earlier in the morning if that suits what they have on, or later at night. Me, for example, I only do a 4-day working week, and that gives me a day off during the week to then, focus on my personal responsibilities as well, which is brilliant. And then from a customer point of view, that was really very much at the forefront of everyone's mind. And we did make a commitment right away, to keep key workers mobile throughout the pandemic, just recognising how fundamental these people are to the running of our society. So we wanted to make sure from the get-go that no one would have been without transport if they were involved in an accident. And whilst, we did see a reduction in claims like everyone else, what we wanted to be really clear on is giving customers options of when to repair their vehicle and how they want that repair process to be. So we brought in place, once the COVID restrictions came in, technology to remotely inspect our customers' vehicles. And this helped support customers, who didn't feel comfortable taking their vehicle to a repair centre. Using that technology, we were able to put our customers' minds at ease to say, look, your vehicle is still drivable, you're still safe to use it, or confirm actually it's not drivable, or your vehicle's a total loss. And then once that remote inspection had been done, following that up with cash in lieu, booking the vehicle in or getting the money to the customer if the vehicle was a total loss. And it meant that, a lot of body shops did close down in March, so we could still service the customers in the right way. And then, come summertime when things started to open back up again, we didn't have any claim backlog in repairs, because we were just very much open for business and being really flexible in how we could service the customer. So for us, the two main areas of focus was just around our people and then making sure that we were there for our customer.
And by that, it sounds like you were very well prepared kind of thing. So, again, do you think the two things that you've referenced there, were they kind of coming anyway, in essence, and kind of the pandemic accelerated the requirement for them?
I mean, on the people side, everyone working from home, I don't know that would have happened had it not been for COVID-19. Like I say, we did offer flexibility and there was an element of home working, but I think people, for the most part, seem to prefer, the balance of a few days in the office and a few days at home. So I don't know that we would ever have gone fully home working. But then, the remote inspections and things like that and offering customer choice, that probably would happen. But it was just accelerated a bit because of what happened last March.
Yeah, very, very interesting times. And I assume kind of those things have stayed with you. Again, the year sort of remembrance yesterday, wasn't it, in terms of when we went into lockdown? So has anything changed since the start of the year? Is it kind of all the same structure and what you've just discussed in place at the moment?
Yeah, all the same structure. We've never gone back into the office all throughout this, even, kind of last summer when the government were saying it's safe to go back into the office. The decision was taken that, we're set up, we're comfortable, we're business as usual, so people won't go back into the office for now.
Okay, great stuff. Great oversight there in terms of how you've adapted, and echoes kind of a lot of sentiment that I think we've heard in previous webinars and sessions. So we've explored numerous subjects, and again, I kind of explained to you, we did webinars weekly, we've then gone to bi-weekly, just to keep everyone kind of communicating, and people, technology, relationships, sustainability are kind of, some of the key themes, just to name a few. But what aspects of business, and you've probably already, alluded to it, but are at the fore of your considerations and operations right now, and why?
I suppose it's around, customer delivery and then how technology can support that. So in Motor in the UK, we genuinely are working towards being seen as a customer service focused insurance company. Internally, we have what we call the claims commitment, and that's really about, from our customers' point of view, when they make a claim, make it clear to them what's going to happen, make it personal, so offer them choice, make it collaborative, so work with them on the claims process. And then, most important for me anyway, is about making it effortless for customer. So again, around that choice piece, we want our customers to have an effortless claims journey. And, a lot of customers want as close to, immediate outcomes as possible. And we do aim to give customers freedom of choice, around, for example, how they report the claim to us. So online, through an app, or, the more traditional, just over the phone. And then when it comes to the progress of the claim, again, it's the customer's choice how they can communicate with us. So web chat, SMS, WhatsApp, or, good old telephone. And, in today's society, 100% there is the place for the voiceless interaction, but it's also about recognising that some of our customers just want that more traditional route of reporting a claim over the phone, taking their vehicle to the repair network and just having a chat with people. And as I said, that's just about bringing it back to our claims commitment and just making that journey as personal as possible for the customer. But I also think, we can sit back and say, we've got all these processes in place, but it's about sense checking what that actually means for the customer. So, carrying out surveys after the claim is closed and finding out from the customer how that journey was for them. And then, a key area is just learning from that, isn't it? But then just on the sort of personal point of view, so again, technology really does have a part, but I also think it's recognising when the personal element plays into that. So, for example, if there's a more serious accident, there can be a psychological impact on a customer, and we offer customer access to health and wellbeing services following an accident. So it's completely free for them. And if they want to have a chat with an independent counsellor about an accident that's happened, or another type of advisor because of something that's happened as a result of the accident, then that service is there. And then just sort of taking that a step further is just around the vulnerable customers piece. We have vulnerable customers champions, and we have a central team that oversees everything that goes on with that. And it's just making sure that we are delivering for these types of customers and making sure that they get the right level of service and protection that they need. So I think I don't think that you can say it's really one thing. I suppose it's about understanding people, technology, and how they all interlink really for, at the end of the day, to deliver for the customer, and recognising what customer needs what part of that offering.
And that's a really interesting message. And again, I think it's something that resonates in sessions we've done previous, whereas arguably pre-pandemic, and this is a sweeping generalisation, but it was almost like technology is going to replace the human side of things, whereas actually I think there's been that huge kind of recognition that the human element is absolutely key to kind of understanding and translating that. So it's really interesting, and how you're implementing it within the business, fascinating. And I'm sure you've sat on kind of piles of data that, how you can split customers into certain brackets and look at how they correspond with you and how that interaction takes place. So maybe that's one for another session at some stage.
It is just very much down to what the individual needs at that time. There might be someone who would always think their preference would be voiceless chat, but if they're then involved in a serious accident, they probably just want to speak to someone about it rather than doing it all through their mobile phone or their iPads.
Yeah. And to have that ability and that choice, I suppose, is what's key. So taking what you've just mentioned, and again, kind of, looking at it in the supply chain, which is obviously important, because if you're making changes at the top, everything beneath that needs to be singing the same song. So supply chain alignment, i.e. working with partners who hold same beliefs, cultures, values, is a hot topic right now. It's certainly something that seems to have come to the fore in terms of the discussions we've been having. So where does this sit within kind of Zurich's thinking, and what does it enable?
Yeah, so I mean, a key area for us, customer aside and people aside, is just around the whole sustainability piece, although it does have a customer and a people lens. So as an organisation, we're committed at a group level to be one of the most responsible and impactful businesses in the world. There's been various commitments made around a reduction in our operational footprint. We have a Zurich forest where we've planted 1 million trees. There had been commitments around having 100% of our fleet fully electric. And I do think from a customer perspective, and me as a consumer as well, you are a bit more aware of what an organisation's belief and values are, and I do think that people are paying a lot more attention to that. So when it comes to the supply chain, it is something that we are exploring. And, we do want to work with companies who have the same beliefs and values as us. We can't really be saying at a strategic level that we're going to be doing all these great things, but then directing quite a lot of money through supply partners that don't share in our ambitions. And I think that sustainability, it adds a whole new lens to the procurement process. So, think about the procurement process, governance, data, SLAs, cost, impact on customer. But as a responsible insurer, we're now looking to partner with businesses that have sustainable practices around, we say it's 3 key areas. So it's around environmental, obviously, then it's around, social, and then it's around ethical. And then, taking that a step further, it's around getting customer feedback through our supply partners. So we do value the customer feedback, and we need to understand how the claims journey has felt to them. So any supply partnerships need to have that customer lens over the top of it as well. And again, it's just about making sure that, for example, our vulnerable customers are serviced in a way that's suitable to them. So it is about sustainability overall, but customer feedback and how our customers are being treated.
Really interesting stuff. And again, a sort of subject matter, sustainability, we've touched upon, and yes, I think we're sort of starting to very much recognise the importance of that above many other things, really, both money areas, and I think customer awareness, as you say, public consumer side, us being consumers in various worlds. Absolutely key, and I think it's becoming increasingly recognised as that.
Yeah.
So we had a great session on Monday where we talked about technology. Now, technology, obviously a huge part of our industry now and moving ahead into the future. So, electric vehicles are coming at us at a rate of knots, seemingly ADAS, so driver-assisted systems, increasingly widespread. What impact do you feel this continued evolution of vehicle technology will have on motor claims, and how will it influence how you work with your supply chains?
I mean, there's so much in that question, isn't there? I think, if we're in the world of autonomous vehicles, there's so much work that needs to be done before we would be in the world of, complete adoption. I think we're on consultation number 3 of the Law Commission's review into the deployment of them. And for me, there's probably 3 key areas that are fundamental to this, and this is around safety. We need to find a way for this type of technology to be safely implemented, and then just around the data. So if they are implemented, who accesses the data, how is it protected, what's the policies around the retention of data, and then the third one is just around general public trust. So there needs to be an education piece for the general public about what this technology can actually do, but then gain the public's buy-in and trust, and right, this will be okay, and I'm quite willing to adopt it. And then again, very much tied to the safety first piece. If the public views that there have been incidents caused by the technology, then potentially that could put back mass market adoption by years. I mean, just on the electric vehicles piece, the government are aiming to ban sales of, I think it's petrol and diesel cars by 2035. And in, the car sales in 2020 did see a decline overall, but what we did see is an increase in people buying electric vehicles and buying the plug-in hybrids. And as an insurer, we very much recognise that we're going to start seeing more requests for cover for these types of vehicles, either in our personal or in our fleet policies. So we've already adopted electric vehicle wording into our policies, and there's also the offer for a replacement electric vehicle courtesy car should the customer need to make a claim. And, from a supply chain point of view. So, the continued evolution of these vehicles and the fitment of ADAS equipment becoming more commonplace, in particular on electric vehicles, you would think should see the frequency of motor claims reducing. But I suppose until we're at the point where it's complete 100% adoption, there's still going to be people driving their traditional cars and still making the mistakes that go on in the roads just now. But just on that ADAS point, the technology that's fitted in the ADAS sensors, these tend to be in the bumpers, the windscreens, the wing mirrors, the areas that are pretty exposed if there's a collision. And these sensors can be fairly expensive to repair. So potentially, when more cases like that on the roads, then there could be an increase in repair costs. And one of the challenges, that Thatcham are very alive to in the industry is, if there's a damaged ADAS sensor or one needs to be replaced, they need to be calibrated. And, each manufacturer has their own process around that. And it means that repair body shops need to send sometimes vehicles to main dealers for calibration because, like I say, they all have their own individual processes, which again adds to the cost of the average cost for repair, but also impacts the key-to-key time because, it's not done in-house, it's then sent out, so it could potentially add a few days. So for us, we're working closely with our networks to make sure that, there is the skill set to repair the modern vehicles and, the repairers have the ability to tap into the main dealerships to get the ADAS resets and whatnot done. But in an ideal world, I think we would want all the networks to be able to carry out, the initializations and resets, because I do think that at the end of the day, it just gives a more streamlined process for our customers, really.
Yep, and I think that was one of the sort of subject matters that was discussed on Monday. And again, yes, I think the industry as a whole is increasingly aware, especially with the advent of all this technology coming at us at such a rate of knots, that is the skills issue that still exists. So yes, fingers crossed. As a kind of industry, we can all get together and get it resolved in one way, shape, or form, or at least work towards it. So. I appreciate where we are time-wise, but in your opinion, what would add the greatest value back to the motor claims supply chain / customer experience?
I mean, I suppose if you take it back to why we're here, it's to be here for our customers when, in the unfortunate circumstance, they have to make a claim. People buy insurance hoping that they'll never have to use it, but when they do, we do want that experience to be as effortless as possible. So for me, it's got to be around the customer feedback. We can sit back and pat ourselves in the back and say we're offering choice, we're making it personal, we've got best processes, IT, great communication. But if we get the feedback from the customer that it's not quite hitting the mark, then it's all for nothing, really. So it's got to be around asking customers for that feedback, because they'll be able to tell us where we could improve, IT processes, fulfillment options, staff training, and so basically everything about that repair journey and the claim journey. So I think it's getting the feedback from the customer, well, asking for it, getting the feedback, but then truly listening to it and making sure that we act upon it.
Very interesting. And again, before we came on air, we were kind of, discussing how important the customer is and the fact that, every piece of the supply chain is trying to, please that one, the key ingredient, if you like, the customer at the end of the day. So yeah, to sort of, be working and absorb that feedback and act on it is great stuff. So the government's roadmap, and again, we're kind of coming on to the last question, but again, I've realised that we could chat away forever. I'm sure we could. But lifting of restrictions, it feels like we're kind of turned the corner a little bit, despite it still being probably a bumpy ride ahead. And everyone wants that crystal ball that nobody's got. So I'm going to pose the question: how do you envisage kind of the road back to normality in relation to driving habits, customer behaviours, claims volumes, etc.?
I mean, I could probably just say I don't know, and then that's the question over. But I do think that probably drivers' habits will change. I just think about me personally. So before all of this, I was always in the office, on public transport or driving in. And, now once things do start to open back up, from a personal perspective, I don't think I'll ever go into the office full time again. And I know that that's a lot of what my friends, family and colleagues are saying as well. So I guess one of the things would be around, will there be the traditional rush hour times, the morning and the evening? There probably will be to some extent. But will the roads be as heavy as what they were, January, February of 2020? I'm not sure, because I think for a lot of people, working at home is actually working for them. So I don't think rush hours will be as busy, and historically that's always been when most of the accidents have happened. So there could potentially be a lower claims frequency because there's less users out on the road at those busy times. But I also do think that we need to give consideration to other road users. So the government's push towards greener transport. Where I live, I see so many more bicycles on the road. So is that going to be a more common thing, that people cycle to work rather than drive to work, because it has been very much encouraged? So that can give rise to different types of accidents than we see just now. And then just the other thing that I would think about is around e-scooters. So there's pilots happening in England just now. What impact is that going to have on the roads? Again, that's a completely different set of road users, and how will that all play out? So I don't know. I think maybe frequency will reduce, but then, with the other types of road users, when it comes to cyclists and e-scooters, it just might be just a completely different ballgame. I just don't know.
Well, thank you for expanding out the answer anyway, and it was kind of the one I expected. But no, it's always great to kind of gain a bit of an insight in terms of the direction that you guys are looking in, and likewise with others. As I said, it's the crystal ball moment, and nobody's got that crystal ball right now. But yes, fingers crossed, we're on the right trajectory out of all of this, and if the government's guidelines timetable, if we can stick to it, then that's fantastic. So, Gillian, well, thank you very much indeed for your time today. I know you've got to hop on to another meeting at 11 o'clock, so really appreciate it. Thank you so much for spending the half an hour with us and give us an insight into Zurich Insurance. Sounds like a fascinating time, and I wish you all the very best with that. Obviously, a huge thank you, as always, to our corporate partners. And again, before people leave, if you can just drop a message in the chat, let Gillian and myself know what you thought of the session, any comments, any feedback. Huge thanks to our corporate partners, BASF, BMS, CAPS, Copart, Emacs, Integral, Enterprise Rent-A-Car, Mercer, Nationwide Vehicle Recovery Assistance, S&G Response, and Sherwin-Williams Automotive Finishes, as well as our partners, Aztec, the Green Part Specialist, Indasa, Prasco, and the Innovation Group. So thank you once again, everybody. Hopefully we'll see you later when you can join some of our partners for an insight into their businesses. Take care, everybody, and we'll see you all soon. Thanks, Gillian.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.